and get it started. It looks like I've got 5 after here, so I guess what I will do is officially start the meeting. This gives me a little opportunity to put our link info in the beginning. So official start is, oh, I don't even have my little disclaimer. This is not a marketplace for illegal products. I don't even remember. I've said it like 50 times, but I don't even remember. We don't break laws, blah, blah, blah. Behave yourselves out there where you advocate. How's that? First stuff I want to kind of go over, as I usually do each month, is what's going on the federal level. And what many people may have heard about is let's see if I can get the right one here, the Safe Banking Act, which passed, I believe it was the Senate 2 weeks ago. I don't know what's going on with it since necessarily, but that has been in the news quite a bit. The other one that's been in the news, and we're hoping to see a little bit of movement on, the chairman's bill, and I forget the chairman's name offhand, and do I have the right link here? I do. I'm going to go click out to this. But that's the Support Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, also known as the MORE Act. We're actually trying to give quite a bit of push to the MORE Act. HR 3884 and S number 2227. As a bipartisan legislation that removes marijuana from the Controlled Substances Act. Exactly what we'd like to see. It's not a rescheduling, it's a complete descheduling, thus decriminalizing the substance at a federal level, enabling states to set their own policies. The act would also allow the existing state legal marijuana industry to no longer be barred from accessing financial services or standard tax treatment as every other legal business. Similarly, veterans will have the better access to medical cannabis, with VA doctors no longer risking federal prosecution for filling out state legal medical recommendations.
I vote yes.
You vote yes. All right. Crafted by Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler of New York. Oh, that's right. That was I should have known that. And carried into the Senate by Senator Kamala Harris. So that's the Nadler-Harris bill. Backed by a broader coalition of civil rights, criminal justice, drug policy, and immigration groups. So that is one that, we're finding as a priority at the moment. And along with that is basically having our members reach out to their local legislators, their federal level legislators, and asking them to join the Cannabis Caucus, Federal Cannabis Caucus. It says here recently formed, but it's been around for a while. The more members that we can get to become members of the Cannabis Caucus, definitely will show a bigger rallying of support by our legislators. Veterans Medical Access, which is supporting the Veterans Medical Marijuana Safe Harbor Act, and also the Veterans Medical Research, which is the mandate the VA conduct clinical trials for cannabis, for medical cannabis, are 2 other federal priorities right now. Also, there's the End Criminalization, supporting the Ending Marijuana, Federal Marijuana Prohibition Act. Something just dinged in my ear here. I have a message from somewhere. Let me see if I can quick see what that might be. Okay, so sorry about that. Those are the big pieces of federal legislation that are the priorities at the moment. So, as always, we encourage our members to reach out to their legislators. Writing them an actual physical letter, believe it or not, is much more effective than emails and phone calls, especially if they're like sort of blocking letting their voicemails fill up. Actual handwritten letters, printed documents have to be read by some sort of congressional aid and logged, documented, with a little description about what it's about, which means they have to read it. Also, handwritten tends to get much better responses from the legislators. I believe they just feel seeing a handwritten letter shows a better emotional connection to it. I don't know, but you know, if it works, it's a good strategy. So definitely reach out to your legislators on that. I do want to move on to state, and as of course we know at this moment there is nothing going on the state level. All the medical bills or all of the cannabis legislation, except for the Hemp Act, basically died at the end of session, and much of it may be revamped, amended, and then renewed and reintroduced, coming in either early introduction is like I think late December, or when the House actually legislature actually convenes again in January. With that said, I've sort of looked over some documentation from NORML National's fact sheets, one of them being on the, don't have it right in front of me, but basically the elements of a good medical marijuana program. I'd like to have other of our members look over that document. As I'm getting this recorded, I will put the link in and it'll be out on our YouTube. But I just think that, let me stop here for a second. If we can come up with some amendments to submit based on that document and compare it and mirror it to the existing medical legislation out there that, you know, has what we know is some absolutely bad language in it, some, you know, what's the word? Giveaways to law enforcement of large amounts of tax funds that we don't agree with, increased harms to cannabis consumers that might be caught with small amounts and happen to say the improper thing that law enforcement could misconstrue them as trying to claim they're a legitimate cannabis card holder. If law enforcement believes they're lying about their medicine or something like that, they can actually increase the harms that come to them. And we don't want to see additional charges being placed on people. I don't think that's anything we want inside the legislation. Also, I know there's one legislator, not my local legislator, but I'd like to kind of reach out to, only because he is the one that had sponsored the decrim bill at state level last time. If any of you remember me talking about this one in the past, it was a decriminalization bill for, I believe it's less than an ounce. It was not a no fine, no time, no court cost program like we'd be looking at that we've been trying to do with our voter initiative petitions. But it was more along the lines of areas that have done the ticket kind of concept. The issue with that is they also wanted to reduce the penalties for methamphetamine and cocaine-based products. And not that we're against those, that movement. I think all drugs should basically be decriminalized and make them health issues, medical issues, health. But it would be definitely a deterrent on moving that legislation forward here in South Carolina. And I would wonder if maybe if I reach out to him, he might be open to rewriting the legislation and taking away those other, unless, I mean, maybe, I don't know, I don't play the politics chess game. Maybe they were put in there with the option of taking them out in amendments. I really don't know. But it never seemed to go anywhere. It never seemed to really get any following, and nothing near what the medical legislation is getting. It probably never moved in a committee. And that's the other challenge, getting a legislation that's going to be drafted that not only can be acceptable, but be able to be moved forward in these committees, especially with some of them having chair people that might not necessarily be as enthusiastic about reforming marijuana laws here in South Carolina. Many times they just like to table it, let it sit on the back burner till the end of session, poof, it's gone. Let somebody else worry, push that, kick the can down the road, as we like to say. But that's kind of what we're up to at state level. I guess I could tie this into state level. It's not legislation based, but I just reached out in the past couple of days to our chapter in Columbia NORML, a sister chapter, and excuse me. What I still need to do that is, of course, I was on a meeting with National talking about lobby days. And there's something they talk about often. It kind of drives me nuts because it's like, don't you get out, move, and go and talk to your legislators. And locally, with another group, I was over to see Cunningham at one point and going to a couple of different rallies where I've talked to a couple of legislators, but I don't get out as much as I should. But the lobby days that we were talking about would probably be, we haven't set a date up, but I'd like to sort of manage it with the folks in Columbia, since that's where the capital is. They can give you a better lay of the land, and maybe make some arrangements to help support us when we get there. So I don't know if maybe we'll somehow or another be able to rent a van or a bus or whatever. But what we'll be doing is trying to go ahead and make appointments with our legislators so that we can go in as small groups and talk to them about what we're concerned about with the marijuana laws and how we want to change them. See if we can garner some support for the legislation that'll probably be drafted and submitted by that point. Hopefully it's legislation that we can live with, or even if not, we can talk about our amendment proposals to improve that legislation. So that's something that I really have avoided doing in the 3 years of being executive director here at Lowcountry NORML, is getting off my ass and going to Columbia. I've been up there, I believe, twice. Might have been once. I'm not a fan of travel, but if there's some new leadership up there in Columbia that seems to be a little bit more on the ball, and I believe if we can sort of organize this, we can get some folks from the Charleston area to come along and travel up to Columbia and have our voices heard by our legislators. That way, no matter where you live around the area, if you're from Somerville, if you're from Goose Creek, if you're Hanahan, if you're Hollywood, I'll come and hop on the bus with us, and we'll make appointments with your legislators so that we can all go in together and talk to them with you. If they'll give us appointments, obviously, and sometimes it might not be the legislator, it might be one of their assistants. But anyway, it helps us get our voice heard. We'll start to formulate the process, points that we'll want to discuss, and also some leave behinds for them. And if you want to talk about something specific to your legislator that might be a little bit different than our main core focus, we will touch base on that on our introduction to them, but then we will kind of focus on some of the things that we generally focus on with most of our, as you see us do with most of our advocacy for cannabis. With that said, I mean, that's kind of a throw between state and local efforts, because that's us locally joining another local chapter and getting together and trying to push state efforts. Our more local efforts have been a little bit of legal victory, I think I would say, in the past couple of days. Karen, who's on with us now, I think I told her about most of this yesterday's Board of Directors meeting. But our FOIA request, we filed a FOIA request with the city of Charleston. We're trying to find a memo that we believe states the position of the prosecuting attorney and their desire to not really focus on prosecuting cannabis possession cases because they're clogging up the court systems. And I'm guessing it was an attorney that had been working on it for the city, is no longer with them. I don't know the details on why they're no longer with them. We filed this request back July 24th, so it's been past the due date. I went down to the corporate counsel offices on Broad Street last week. I'm looking at the calendar. It hasn't been a full business week, and but I was really hoping I'd hear back from them within about 48 hours since they are already past due, and I haven't. So at some point I may have to take another little trip down there and again request the status on what's the status of our FOIA request. The other thing was a couple years ago, we had applied for a nonprofit spot at the Farmers Market in Marion Square that is managed by the Cultural Affairs Department of the city. We were declined, and the reason was that if they allowed us, it would look like they supported our cause, and they just couldn't do that. And so they had to decline. I let it go. And although I've discussed it with folks a couple of times over the past couple of years, and that was 2017, we applied for that season, so it was early in the year that I must have applied. So we're going over 2.5 years probably since that initial application. But over the summer, I saw they had started allowing the Democratic Party and the Republican Party to set up booths. I've seen them there a couple of times. And basically, I just kind of looked at the Constitution, First Amendment, and said, you can't do that. So I finally emailed it back to them about 2.5 years later. And I said, the Constitution says you can't do that. I really think you need to reevaluate your decision. And a few days later, I got a voicemail to call the city's legal offices and spoke with an attorney there who said that we are quite welcome to fill out the new application for the 2020 year since we're done for this year, basically. Those applications aren't actually available yet. A little confusing information, I believe, for me, because she had said to take note that the applications were usually all in by the end of January. So I reached out to get the applications because that's what it says to do on their website, and I was the email response back to that was that they would be available sometime in early January. I don't see if I have that exactly in front of me. There it is. They'll be on by mid-January. So I can go to their website, fill in our email address. We'll get a notice, I guess, when these are available. And apparently, if I understand the message from the attorney, I need to kind of get on the ball and do it as soon as they're available to get them submitted before they make their decisions, which I don't know. But we'll play along. But that was good news because I think they're going to pretty much say, yeah, you can have a day in our nonprofit section. And I'm hoping, if nothing else, it just gives us a little bit of credibility. I mean, when the Democratic and publicity, because to be quite honest with you, when the Democratic and Republican parties got their shot there, they got an article in the, I think it's the Post and Courier. I don't know if any of the other media covered it, but at least they got a little newspaper promo that they were out there. And actually, it got a lot of commenting on their post from the Post and Courier about get politics out of our farmers markets and blah blah blah, which me personally I thought was hilarious because our farmers are really suffering by what's going on politically in this nation. And, I think they need us out there, like supporting them in more than just, spending a couple dollars with the gal making the seashell earrings. Yeah. Oh, sorry, girl who's making the seashell earrings. But our farmers need more support than that. No, really, we do support a lot of our crafters, a lot of our other vendors. Of course, my Sweet Tooth, we support one of the chocolatiers and one of the cookie people, and, food a lot of time. With that said, those are kind of our political thingies. One other thing I did mention to Karen on Monday, and it's kind of political, I guess, so I will bring it up, but there's festivals that go on down in Folly Beach, and we've been trying to get maybe a booth there for a number of years. And last year in my snideness, I said to them, well, if you don't let us, we've already got permission to be over here at this art village market at that restaurant parking lot. Little did I know that the restaurant was owned by the president of the administrating organization. And so then I was booted out of that as well. So we couldn't have NORML's representation. The restaurant sold. And while we were down at one of the festivals just over the weekend, one of the organizers for the parking lot group said, hey, the restaurant sold to new owners. You're welcome to come back to any of the festivals or any time that you like. So that, to me, again, it wasn't a legislator necessarily, but it's political. Somebody doesn't want us at their festival for whatever reason it may be. I have my theories, and we'll leave it at that at the moment. But I think that was another win. So I think we've had a win-win-win this week with those three different events. We do have coming up, and we're about 4 weeks out from the Victory Cup balloon launch or balloon festival and polo match. So if you want to come out and stomp divots and wear your fancy polo wear, I was really amazed at some of the great outfits that people wore last year. Well, I know when I'm manning the booth on a hot summer day, and I think they had it earlier last year. This year it may be cool. I didn't dress quite as fancy as any of the others, and I probably won't either this year. But it's a great event. You get to see, I know last year they had some real high-end cars there, a car, airplane, boat combination thing, a lot of food trucks. In the evenings, they did a balloon glow where they fire up the heaters and the balloons. And Saturday's an all-day event. Friday night, 4 to 8. So people kind of come and go through the day. Some of them come for morning balloon stuff and then leave as they clear the field for some of the polo matches. Others come for VIP polo match tents and the wine and champagne, and I don't know what all goes on in the VIP area. I wasn't one of them. Wasn't one of them. But it's a great event. We're really kind of winding down our other markets right now, although I am looking at a couple of kind of holiday markets to maybe get a couple of our t-shirts or memberships or something that could go as holiday gifts for local supporters, I'm hoping. Gotta kind of hope for the best. I also wanted to mention before I forget it, if you're watching this video in the next couple of days, we have a poll on our Lowcountry NORML discussion group page. I think the link is also shared over to NORML's regular page on Facebook. But either in our group or on the Facebook page, we have a poll about getting together and meeting, an actual physical gathering. And we're kind of just looking first at locations where we kind of want to gather at. It's generic, but it's a starting point. And I'd like to see if we can get some people kind of involved in answering some more of the questions. I saw another person came and chimed in today, but the more the merrier. That'll give us a little bit of direction on which way to go. So go out to our Facebook page and go ahead and fill that out. Oh, another thing I do want to mention, if you all got your newsletter this month, I'm hoping that you're liking them. Our new communications director has been kind of spot on and making sure we get those out a couple days before the meeting so we can kind of get that meeting reminder out. We're keeping the information rather short and brief, and if you're not getting them, head over to our website, normalsc.org. About 5 seconds in, you're going to have a pop-up to have you go and sign up. So go and do that. Otherwise, check the agenda list here. Getting political. Oh, that's a reminder. Local news. I want to go grab this from our Facebook post. Local news. We just got a post today. Find the right one. Okay, I don't see the right one, so I'll go find it. But basically, Horry County judge has deemed civil asset forfeiture illegal and unconstitutional. Is that the exact wording on it? Ruled the state civil asset forfeiture law unconstitutional in violation of the U.S. Constitution's 4th, 5th, and 14th Amendments.
Yoo-hoo.
Yeah, we'll kind of see what happens with that. A lot of people have had their assets seized. I mean, to me, that is a big win. That was South Carolina Circuit Court. So I believe that's state level. I don't know where it's going to go. It may have, maybe appealed. I certainly hope not, because yeah, that's a big win, especially here in South Carolina. That's a big win because they've been taking advantage of that as much as they can. So that was in the news today. That to me was quite exciting. No, that's just my ugly mug over there. Sometimes I have to actually look at our Facebook page to find out what's going on. That's like about our biggest local stuff that I have, except like I say, I want to remind everybody, head to our Facebook page or discussion group, hit that poll, let us know where you want to meet. So far, it's looking like we're going to gather at the beach. If we do, it's probably going to be in the next couple of weeks because, oh, geez, I actually saw somebody hoping for snow for Christmas here in Charleston.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Go somewhere else.
But anyway, the chance of it getting kind of chilly on the beach is getting there. My poor son, the past 2 years, came with his girlfriend to visit. I think it was like first week of December, the past 2 years, and it was really too chilly to do beach time. Unless you were in a sweatshirt and long pants, and we're moving. You weren't really sunbathing. So that might be just something we kind of, if that's the main goal, we put that more as an early season one. But yeah, we'll kind of work on that. Anyway, one more check at the agenda just to make sure I'm not really forgetting a whole lot. Anything that was local news, getting political, upcoming events. The only other thing I'd like to mention about upcoming events is definitely watch our Facebook page. They tend to get a little bit better updated over there than on our website. Again, I've recently given our communications director access to some of the website, but I haven't walked her through any of actually what to do there. I'm hoping we can kind of get her to fill in the blanks when I don't get over there to fill them out. That maybe she's them on Facebook. We'll figure it all out. Also talking about local news, upcoming events. I'm going to do what I always have to do every month is beg, come on out, join us, go to our website, buy some merch, make a donation, volunteer, become a board member, help us steer this thing. with the Decriminalize Charleston project coming up again after the November elections, we're going to restart that. So I'm going to be begging again for signature collectors, and I'd love to get some area coordinators, and an overall volunteer coordinator would be awesome. Anybody who's got some time they want to invest into helping us organize our army of supporters, contact me. I'll put the email down below here, as I usually try and do. Otherwise, I'm going to say thank you for joining me, and we'll be in touch soon. Good
Okay.
night.
Night.